So now let's take a look at how computers talk to each other within our networks. Actually, let's go back in the Wayback Machine of how this was originally done back in the days of mainframes, back in IBM and Cray-based or Wang-based mainframes. You'd have all these different vendors that have to communicate. Let's say you have Company A and Company B with these large mainframes. And it's back when the computer room was one computer and a whole floor of a building type thing. Integrating one company with another company that was using two different mainframe technologies would require you to hire a bunch of engineers to write vendor-specific or very proprietary type interaction-based drivers and software so that the two mainframes could communicate with each other. If you're talking about the same vendor, they'd have a proprietary method of talking from one IBM mainframe to another IBM mainframe, but that same proprietary technology wouldn't work if you were talking to a completely different manufacturer. So these type of initial networks, these host-to-host or mainframe-to-mainframe type networks, were the basis upon how we started our computer networking environment. Now, what we discovered with that is that the cost of doing that was prohibitive. It made a lot of sense to be able to exchange data back and forth, and the idea of sharing resources. Sharing resources was a huge thing, because you go back to the mid-'70s, late '70s, even into the '80s, the cost of hard drive space, actual storage space, was the most expensive part of things. I remember a file cabinet size hard drive, if you will, that stored maybe 20 megabytes of data, and that thing was $40,000. And having one $40,000 drive for every single computer that all the users were using didn't make a whole lot of financial sense. You'd have green screen terminals for each of the machines, and you'd be using the data network to access the resources on this hard drive. So the idea of sharing resources was the idea of the first networks and interconnecting mainframes together. But again, all done either ad hoc or with a very proprietary mechanism in order to do this. And we realized that this wasn't the best way to do it. We had to create an open standard for communication from one host to another host.